Okay, so when you think of a superstar, who pops into your head? A pop singer? A huge YouTuber? Well, what if I told you the original superstar was a composer from over 300 years ago? No joke, this is the story of George Frideric Handel, an absolute legend who basically conquered the entire 18th century music scene.
So I know what you're thinking. A guy in a fancy old wig, what could he possibly have in common with your favorite creator on YouTube? Well, it turns out, a lot. They both had to hustle, they had to build a brand, find their audience, and, this is the big one, know exactly when to pivot to stay on top. Handel's life is pretty much the 18th century playbook on how to go viral and stay relevant. And this was basically his world tour. See, Handel wasn't the kind of guy to just stay in his hometown. He was ambitious. He set out to completely take over the European music scene, moving from Germany to Italy and finally landing in London, leveling up his skills and his fame with every single move. All right, so let's start at the beginning. Level 1, the tutorial phase. This is where Handel unlocks all his basic skills, right back in his home country of Germany. So imagine this for a second. Your parents have your entire life planned out. For you, it's going to be law school, a safe, respectable job. But your real passion? It's something completely different. That was Handel 100%. He was totally obsessed with music and was secretly learning instruments when everyone else thought he was hitting the books. So just like in a video game, he starts building up his skill tree. First, boom, he masters the keyboard instruments. Next, he levels up his composition skills. His parents finally saw how serious he was and gave in. That's when he moves to Hamburg and basically joins his first pro team, the orchestra at the Opera House. And this is where it gets real. He goes from being just a talented kid to a full-on professional, even writing his first couple of operas. Okay, on to the next level. Handel knew that if he wanted to be the best, he had to learn from the best. And back in the 1700s, all the hottest, most popular music was coming out of one place, Italy. So what does he do? He goes on a sort of study abroad trip to Italy. And this is where he basically downloaded the source code for success. He spent his time soaking up all the secrets of Italian opera, how they wrote these super dramatic, emotional pieces. He started writing his own, and yeah, people on the international stage started to notice. All right, so after totally mastering the Italian style, Handel was ready. It was time to take his brand global, or at least to the biggest market he could find. In 1712, he makes the big leap and moves to London. You can think of this like a creator today moving to LA or New York to really hit the big time. And here is where his genius really shines. He didn't just join a scene. He pretty much created one. Italian opera wasn't a huge deal in England back then, so Handel brought it there, and the audiences went absolutely nuts for it. He became an overnight sensation, putting on these massive, dramatic shows that nobody in London had ever seen before. Of course, when you're the biggest star in the city, you're going to get noticed by the biggest brands. And in the 18th century, there was no brand bigger or more powerful than the royal family. And boom, Handel lands the ultimate sponsorship deal. The royals absolutely loved his music, and they paid him to compose for all their huge events. We're talking coronations, national celebrations, the works. This gave him two incredibly important things. One, financial security, so he never had to worry about money again. And two, massive public recognition. His music became the soundtrack of the nation. He wasn't just some composer anymore. He was a household name. But here's the thing about trends, right? They always fade. After a few years, audiences in London started to get a little, well, bored with Italian opera. The hype was dying down. Now, a lesser artist might have just faded away with it, but Handel was a master at one crucial thing: adapting. He knew it was time to change the game. So he pivots. He basically invents a whole new content format, the oratorio. Just think of it like an opera. It's got a big orchestra, a choir, a dramatic story, but with two key differences. One, it was in English, and two, there were no expensive costumes or sets. It was performed just like a concert. And you can see why this was such a galaxy brain move. Operas were in Italian, which most people in London couldn't understand. Oratorios? In English, everyone could follow along. Operas were for the elite, the rich, but oratorios, with their stories from the Bible, appealed to a way, way wider audience. It was like a famous movie director suddenly dropping a surprise podcast series. It was a totally new way to reach people, and it absolutely worked. So Handel has conquered Europe, he's reinvented his art form, he's found a whole new audience. but every great story needs one final challenge, right? A final boss he had to overcome to really cement his status as a legend. As he got older, Handel's health started to decline. His eyesight got so bad he literally couldn't see to write his music down anymore. But did he stop? No way. He was so dedicated, so passionate that he kept on composing by dictating all the notes to an assistant. The guy was just unstoppable. And his work ethic, it was just on another level. I mean, over the course of his career, he wrote more than 40 operas. And that's not even counting all the oratorios, the royal music, all the other stuff he wrote. The sheer amount of music he created is just mind-blowing. So what's the final score? His legacy is just massive. He directly inspired the next generation of musical legends, guys like Mozart and Beethoven. His music is still played in concert halls all over the world today. He was an absolute master of creating drama and emotion with music, and he proved that classical music could be a total blockbuster spectacle. So if there's one big takeaway from all this, it's this. Handel's story isn't just about writing amazing music, it's about strategy. To stay at the top of your game, whether you're a composer in the 1700s or a creator today, you have to be willing to innovate, you have to adapt, and sometimes you have to give the audience something new before they even know they want it. And that leaves us with one final question to think about. Handel moved across countries, he completely reinvented his style, all in the name of his passion and his career. So my question to you is, what's the biggest pivot you'd be willing to make to go after what you truly love?